anglers. We got the boys. Jerry Guzman from JRI. We've got Danny Wade, surface iron expert. Today is going to be a great show. We're going to be talking all kinds of fishing, all kinds of fun, a lot of info, and a whole lot more. You stay tuned. You're listening to Southern California's sport fishing voice. This is Let's Talk Hookup on the Let's Talk Hookup app and the Sports Grid Radio Network.
The name that stands out among anglers is Fisherman's Landing, your top choice in local and long-range fishing. Hi, this is Doug Kern. Our hardworking crew will make sure your fishing experience is one to remember. We offer the finest open party trips from 1 to 3 days, the best charter boats available, and of course, our world-renowned long-range fleet is second to none. Fisherman's Landing is a full-service operation offering great half-day trips on the Dolphin and full-day open party trips on the spacious and comfortable Liberty. Since we introduced the full-day trips at Fisherman's Landing, the 85-foot Liberty has become a favorite among full-day operations with bunks for your comfort, huge bait capacity, and RSW fish holds to keep your catch fresh. Plus, Liberty has a big modern galley and 2 interior heads with showers. All our open party trips from half-day, full, or 1 to 3 day trips can easily be booked online at fishermanslanding.com or give us a call at 619-221-8500. I'll see you at Fisherman's Landing in San Diego.
Don't delay and take advantage during Yamaha's Why Wait for Spring sales event. From now until December 6, 2024, eligible new 25 to 2.5 horsepower outboards include up to $500 in dealer credit, and new Yamaha 450 to 425 horsepower outboards include 7 years of coverage protection. 350 to 30 horsepower outboards come with 6 years of coverage protection. Visit your local Yamaha dealer today. Yamaha, reliability starts here. Offer ends December 6, 2024, subject to change. Other restrictions and conditions apply. Select models exclude new 2.5 to 25 four-stroke outboards and dealer credit up to $500 based on horsepower toward the MSRP value of goods and services purchased at the authorized participating dealer that sold the outboard. At no extra cost to the consumer, new 425 to 450 horsepower is a 24-month Yamaha extended service added to a 60-month factory limited warranty. New 30 to 350 horsepower is a 36-month Yamaha extended service added to a 36-month factory limited warranty. Choice offered by Florida dealers is a Yamaha extended limited warranty. See authorized participating Yamaha dealer for details. Cannot be used with any other Yamaha offer.
Everyone has their go-to fishing spot. My spot is Kingfisher Charters in Sitka, Alaska. Rock Cod Rick here to say if you're looking for the ultimate Alaska experience and the best value in Alaska, it's Kingfisher Charters. Owner Seth Bone and his crew consistently deliver deluxe accommodations, the finest food, world-class fish processing, and top-of-the-line fishing experience. We've literally sent hundreds of our listeners to Kingfisher, and they all can't wait to go back. Most Alaska resorts make big promises, and they don't deliver, or they'll nickel and dime you to drive up the cost, but not Kingfisher. Everything is included. Your license, fish processing, super deluxe accommodations, amazing food, airport transfers, your gear. Literally all you need to bring is your layer clothing, and Kingfisher covers the rest. They also have the finest boats and charter captains in Sitka, all for the ultimate value. Take it from me. Book your trip to Kingfisher Charters and you'll thank me. Kingfisher Charters, 800-727-6136, or check kingfishercharters.com.
All right. Good morning. Welcome back to Let's Talk Hookup, and hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving Day.
Yeah, that was awesome. Yeah, I hope you guys the same.
Day. Weather's beautiful.
We had the
except for where Pete's at.
Yeah, probably a little chilly back east, if I was guessing.
I don't think their high got over freezing.
Oh, that's wild.
Right?
That's wild. Yeah, we did.
No, thank you.
Yeah, we did in the backyard. The boys are running around with no shoes on. Like, this was a pretty solid San Diego. It's a pretty solid San Diego fall, that's for sure. But yeah, a great one for sure, and certainly a great show having these two guys in here. Jerry, Danny, great to have you guys. So pumped, and thanks for coming in, hanging out with us for a couple hours. Morning.
Not a problem, man. Not a problem.
We certainly love it.
I live close.
Danny made a guest appearance for about 20 seconds last Saturday.
Last week I had the wrong Saturday.
I was hoping you're going to come and hang out and talk lures again. We were talking just a little bit before the mics kicked on. What a great year to be in the surface iron world and the business of having not just good fishing, but, you two have done this forever and certainly a lot longer than I. And Danny, you've had your finger on the pulse forever. But what a season we had of yellowtail fishing at the Coronado Islands, and how great to have a lure company with unbelievable fishing like that.
Exactly. I mean, it was as good as it gets for this local scene. And not only the islands, La Jolla, the same thing. I mean, it was good fishing in La Jolla.
It was so fun to see the consistency of guys just trip after trip, skiffs, sport boats, get down there in a kayak, just get there, and you knew there was fishing that's going to be had.
I think it certainly, and this is a business thing, but it certainly helped for the island style of fishing that the offshore thing didn't work out all that well.
Yeah.
It just wasn't there.
It was.
And I mean, Steve P was on Mission Bell. He was basically at the islands all year.
Yeah.
And he's the guy who got it started.
That's great.
He's the guy who really, here we come.
Yeah. That was fun.
Yeah, and it was good. It was stupidly good.
And size-wise too, right?
Yeah, ridiculous. I mean, especially that stuff getting into September down there on the pile. Yeah, that was
legit.
That was brutal.
What was so great too is the consistency of fishing, and I don't want to call it easy because that's never the right word, but you could go into the rack and pick out a JRI stinger and go to the islands, and you knew you were going to be in the game. Like you knew that the shots were going to be had, and it was just some fun fishing this year.
Yeah, I mean, actually, kind of talking on top of the Coronados. One of the coolest things we've done is we every year in early June we run a 7-dayer on the Intrepid. So we're one of the first long range boats to actually jet way down south. Mm-hmm. To me, that's like my crystal ball for the year. And this year was amazing. The amount of fish, the quality of fish was the big one. So, we've been doing this for almost 10 years, going down, doing our 7-dayer. And what we've seen is we'd get like, if we got a 30-pound yellowtail, we're like, hey, this is cool. This year it was consistent 30-pounders into the 40s. I think our largest fish was, I believe, 44 pounds, and it was everywhere. And I think as we were cruising down Cedros, the boats there were catching mid 40. I mean, it was standard 40-pounders.
Unbelievable.
So to me, that was the crystal ball of what's coming north. And like what Danny was saying, it when it came to the islands, it was just stupid, insane. It was just, I called it the year of the Yellowtail.
Yeah.
Add that to the Chinese zodiac. I mean, year of the Yellowtail was this year.
I'll take that every year.
I like that.
Don Sansom always said, back in his qualifier days, the Golden Triangle, Bonitas to Cedros to San Martin.
Okay.
They live at Bonitas and Cedros and so on. They swim on up through Geronimo, San Martin. They end up here.
Okay.
In one form or another, all the way to Clemente and Catalina and whatnot. But it's a Golden Triangle, and it's the home of the Yellowtail.
A healthy population down there is great for us.
Yeah, sure.
That's cool.
Yeah.
What is it? What was it about this year that you think that made it? But was it just good condition? Was it food? What was the anomaly that happened that made a year like this so good? Is it stars aligning? Is it cycle just meant to be?
Boats were there.
Yeah. Okay.
If the boats aren't there, you don't know what's going on.
Right.
You can send out 700 skiffs down there, and they're not going to tell you what's going on because they don't have the equipment. Mm-hmm. They don't have the scanning sonars. They don't have the good up and down stuff. They don't have the bait. But you get these sport boats in there because there was fish there, and it wasn't offshore. They figured it out, and conditions were good. You get your 7 to 10 days of your 40s, your 50s, your 20s, your 70s, your 100, and then it'd fall flat on its face for 3 or 4 days, which is typical Coronado Island.
Right.
And then here it comes again. The things straighten out, current starts flowing again, but there's boats there. So whether it's from North Island down to the pile and even down to the 26, there's boats covering all that stuff, so they have an idea of where it is, and you can stay on top of it. It's not really that much different than offshore fishing. If you go out there once a week, oh, well, they're not around. Well, you went left when you should have went right. Who knows? But there were boats in there, and there was fish to be caught.
Yeah. You guys have, speaking of the sport boats being in there and fishing, you guys have both been around and seen the change of how our boats fish the Coronado Islands now. From just before my time being around the landing, it was all the 2 a.m. departure, overnight style trips. And then, my era was the early trips, but it was fishing on the anchor and, waiting for the conditions to either swing around and the fish come to you, and, sea lions and timing and just the pace have kind of changed that world. And now it's very active. hunting, looking with the sonar, unbelievable skill set by the operators at the Coronado Islands, the Taros and Boogers and Brawlas and Steve Pease and and all the guys that are actively fishing the islands these days. How has that changed your guys' game, the surface iron fishing? Does it make it better? Does it make it different? Does it make it worse? Does it change at all, or is it still look for a condition and fire a good swimming lure at them?
To me, I think it's like you said, that chase, that side scanning, that get ready, seeing what's out there. That I think that's what makes jig fishing so much fun now. Like, I mean, yeah, when you're on anchor, that's cool. You're spotting the birds and all that. But when you got, I mean, I remember Stinger back in the day, rest in peace. I mean, he was just fixated on that sonar. And, once those engines cranked back, you knew something was up.
Yeah.
You slide that boat, and then it's like, game on, here we go. Because you get that small window of opportunity. And I think that's what it boils down to. And so it's just picking off those few little sound bites. I mean, I still hear that side horn, that, and then that thing just rips off on the PA, and you're like, here we go, at the game on. And I think that's what makes that fishing just so much fun, because it's just small windows of opportunity, but it's a great time to just start catching. Once you start bringing those fish to the boat, it's like game on. It's just awesome.
You're getting me going.
The adrenaline,
right?
You can feel it in your gut right now.
This year there was a lot of anchor fishing.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys were setting up and waiting for it. Yeah. It depends on the year. It depends on the week. It depends on the month, And if the stuff's associated with structure, you're going to sit up on it. But if it's out off of it, then you're going to Sony it up and try and get it to come to you.
So you're saying the stuff was, sorry, Rick,
No, please,
but it was inside a little bit more, and
it was everywhere that Yellowtail
Yeah.
traditionally have been at the Coronado Islands for thousands of years.
It gets me excited. You talk about anchor fishing, and
But it depends on the day.
Yeah.
I mean, even the times I was with Matt and Booger, even in their little spiel, it was, we're going to the islands, we're going to be doing this. If we see the stuff up on the hard areas, we're going to put the hook down. We're going to make them come to us.
Oh, yeah.
If we don't, then we're going to chase it down and make them come to us anyway.
And I'm with Jerry. Like, I love the adrenaline, just rush and dump with the, okay, get ready. And, he's on the radio and, okay, give it to him. And they're, the bait's going over and all the fun that's associated with it. But how do you say that that's more fun than being on the anchor and seeing the bird starting to fly around and then see it behind the boat and then see it walk its way to you, and just knowing, like, oh my God, here it comes. It's almost in range, a little bit more, and boom, a little spot pops up. You make a cast, your lure comes. How do you say that there's anything better than that?
Exactly. It's all good.
Yeah, it is.
As much as I don't want to do yo-yo fishing, it's all good. Your shot there on the yo-yo stuff, it was stupidly good this year.
Yeah.
Stupidly.
Speaking of yo-yo fishing, Jerry, you showed us something very special, a brand new something, JRI, that's getting ready to show up, being unveiled at H&M with where Danny, where you work every day. Tell us a little bit about that. What's going on with JRI, all the fun stuff you guys have been doing, because you're always in your lab, making something new, making something different, making sure what you have is consistent.
Yeah. So probably in the next week or so, H&M Landing is going to be home of Danny Wade. As you know, back during the COVID era, we came out with the DW1 jig, and so what we did was we made the DW1 also surface side and yo-yo jig. But starting next week, we're going to be having the DW1 made of brass. So H&M Landing is going to be the only place you can get a DW1 in brass. And, something a little pay homage to Danny and stuff like that. And give a little, shout out to H&M for stocking. They're probably our largest supplier of DW1 jigs. So they'll be getting a DW1 in brass.
Now, we always hear about it, and the benefit of it, or this one's a brass jig. What's the difference between a brass yo-yo jig and a regular? Like, what's the material makeup of a standard one, and then why would somebody want or even not want to do a brass yo-yo jig?
Sure. So brass is about anywhere between 18 to 22% denser than zinc. That's your standard yo-yo jig is made of zinc. So brass is a little heavier. So it's kind of like everyone switching to the tungsten jig, right? It's that smaller profile, heavier jig. So obviously we don't do a yo-yo jig out of lead because it's just too soft. So brass being denser, as strong as heck. So, you get that same profile jig. So I'll just use a 6X Junior, for instance. 6X Junior weighs in around 3.6 ounces or so. Our JRI 6, same style jig, same size, comes in brass at 4.6 ounces.
That's
so you
a much
get
difference. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So that extra ounce, let's say you're fishing, the fish are going for smaller bait. You could throw the JRI 6, get down deep, get through that water column. The old saying, get it down first, you're first to get bit. That's where we went with the brass. Also, brass is virtually indestructible. I mean, we've casted tens of thousands of brass jigs. I've yet to have a customer to say, I broke a brass jig. You'll break a ring, you'll break a hook, bend a hook or something, but to physically break a brass jig is virtually impossible. So so for me, it's cheap insurance. Yes, brass is a little more expensive.
Sure.
But fishing isn't getting cheaper out there. So if you want to pay a couple extra bucks for that added insurance, that's what brass is for. So this year, what we've done across the board for our standard brass jig is we've upgraded our hooks. So I've looked at what's our weak link in our jig, at least for the brass, and it just seems like the customers, I throw that out there to customers and they say, hey, could you get a stronger hook for that brass jig?
Yeah.
So we've went with the owner ST66 hook on that. So
benchmark.
Yeah. So I know years ago, Fisherman's did that as a premium. For us, it's a standard for our brass jigs. So a little bit more, but you don't have to go buy a packet, all that, they're expensive, but luckily I buy them at bulk.
But the era has changed. It was
exactly
pre-bluefin. It was all about, hey, this lure is great, but this one looks just the same and it's a couple bucks cheaper. That's what sells. And then we got into this big bluefin era of having to change hooks on everything. And we see it all the time. A customer base tends to favor a more expensive lure that is built right, that doesn't need rings changed and hooks changed, and hey, yeah, this popper's great and it looks good. It's only $15 and the other one's $20, but you got to put two $4 hooks on it and change all the split rings, and I think that's great. So you still have your regular jigs, but your premium high end big one comes with the Gucci hooks on it.
Yeah, and also something I'm putting out there. I'm letting it up for the retailers to decide, but have a surface iron like an LRS long range special for the guys that want the beefier hooks. If a retailer wants that ST66 on our surface iron, by all means, just let us know. We'll make it happen.
That's cool. You guys have seen both, and I know that minor things can make a difference to a surface iron. A treble hook, a single hook, a heavier hook, a lighter hook. Where do you fall in the this hook is 10 times as strong and never needs to get changed, but it's not as light, so maybe the back end of the jig doesn't come around as good, but you don't have to worry about it bending out? Is it just one of those gray area things where there's never
it's the difference between surface iron and yo-yo fishing. When you're on a long rod surface iron, you can get away with that lighter hook because you can't put the pressure on them. The rod absorbs. The rod absorbs it. You got all that mono absorbs it, and you just hang on to the thing. And eventually they start coming at you and you start winding. Yo-yos, you're straight to them. And typically you're fishing braid to very short or whatever.
That's a great point.
Shot.
Sure.
And you're putting the wood to them, and you got to have a heavier hook.
Yeah, if you put a scale on the wall and pulled on it with your 10-foot rod and 40-pound, and then did the same thing with a 6.5-foot rod and 60-pound, it's a whole two different worlds.
Even with 40-pound.
Yeah.
If you did it with the same line pound test,
that rod is just that big shock absorber.
It's a big shock absorber. That's why, traditionally, I like a lighter hook on a surface iron.
Yeah,
I'm willing to lose a fish, not to lose a jig.
Yeah,
for however a kelp, a rock, or whatever it is. And again, as a guy I know, we won't get into who it is and what boat it was, but complaining about a jig and I keep bending the hooks. I said, well, you got a thing called a drag. Why don't you use it? And he said, well, I'm hooking these fish in 60 feet of water. And I was on the boat with him, and I hooked those same fish in 60 feet of water. I put mine on the boat.
Yeah.
You don't need to necessarily pull hard. You just need to keep turning the handle.
Yeah.
So I remember Stinger back then would be fishing a light wires Gamakatsu treble.
Okay.
And it really dramatically changed that action of the lure. Now I have to look at it as a standpoint of the big picture of the customer base. And like Danny said, if I was putting the thin wire hook on it, I'd be getting complaints every day. I'm bending the hooks.
Right.
So I have to look at the masses.
Of course.
But like you said, I think the largest yellowtail caught on our jig was like a 72 pounder. At Alejos on a yo-yo jig using our standard VMC.
Yeah,
hook.
right.
And I'm like, well, he knew how to fish it. So I understand that today everyone's tight drags. We have that, everyone's just butting that thing down. So again, I try to look at the big picture. But like Danny said, me personally, I prefer the lighter.
And let's be very clear too. It's not like the VMC that comes standard. That is the industry standard heavy duty hook. That your jigs don't come with a light wire hook. They come with the what is accepted standard. As the exactly. That's what you've always been synonymous with. Is a JRI might be $1 more, but it's because the fit and finish is nice, the paint job is perfect, the rings are clean, the hooks are right. You're paying for the quality that those lures are, and they're competitively priced the same as everything else. You just get that high end.
And my question is, why would Stinger put a light wire gamakatsu? I mean, did it swim that much better, or
he
just liked it?
He just loved it, and I would just sit there and I'd be like, what the heck is going on here? And then I switched it. I'm like, oh, let me see. It worked. I mean, it was awesome, and shorter shank.
It has a lot to do with it. I can get into this really, really heavily, but I won't. Even little dumb, when you get into the way lure swims, little dumb things like the size of that back ring. The farther that treble hook sits away from the lure, the slower the lure works. The closer it is, the easier it works.
I'm following you.
Yeah. See where I'm coming at?
I totally am.
So you have, I don't think it's necessarily the weight of the hook, more as it is the diameter
and shorter shank or longer shank
of the hook, the wire of the hook.
And you said it great too, Jerry. Like in the case of a guy like Stinger, his preference was he might be on the rev limiter of that hook being strong enough for this. And you know what? If he lost one, no big deal.
Yeah.
Go get another one. Yeah.
Look another one.
Yeah. But maximizing the amount of potential and bites and everything, that's what he was going for. Not, you're building what in your mind is the perfect jig for everybody, but everybody likes to tweak their tackle just a little bit, get it just right.
That's so cool. I mean, it's such a Southern California thing too, right?
To the core, it's like, I love it.
Well, truly Southern California.
It is.
The surface iron outside of getting into Cedros, Bonitas, and all that crap.
But that's all rooted here, though.
Santa Barbara to San Diego.
Yeah, right.
Totally.
And mainly San Diego.
Yeah.
Even though most of these jigs were actually developed in the greater Long Beach, Pedro, so on and so forth, they put them to work down here.
It was very interesting.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. I got so much. I want to talk about Barracuda and Yellowtail and all this. Corey, we're going to have a great show and talk about an unbelievable opportunity to have both of these boys sitting right next to us. It's going to be a really fun day.
It's cool. I mean, I've known Danny for
years,
40 plus. I don't know. I mean, my very first surface iron rod wrapped by the man, Danny Wade.
Cool.
I know. He used to go up to Harnell and bring the Harnells down, and the good old days.
Even Doug used to get his Harnells to shop through me.
It's so cool, man. If anybody wants to join us, please do. We're gonna have a fun couple of hours, and 2 ways to do it. As always, 213-432-1090 is the telephone number, or you can text us via the app. I know there's a bunch of texts already coming through. Rick?
Really good
a bunch. So go on the app right there. It's a free download. You can it says right there, text the show. You can send us a message. You do want to make sure you leave your name and telephone number. Jerry, we're giving away an awesome gift. What?
How about this?
Yeah, I brought a bag of goodies. I don't know how much we got here, but I got tons of jigs here with us. I got our new depth charger bluefin tuna bomb out here. So it got keychains here, our little micro jig keychains. So yeah, we got some got some goodies. So call in and ask some cool questions for Danny and myself, and we'll get you hooked up.
Hand picked from Jerry. There's some cool stuff, and now that tuna bomb is brand new for you guys. The depth charge, right?
Depth charger, correct.
And seeing the again, just like we were talking about, the Eddie bomb style of lure became so popular, but again, you were seeing those for sale for minimal dollar amounts that were sold online that had no business ever attaching themselves to a fish, wires pulling through, hooks coming off. And you did what JRI always did, found that, okay, well, how can we make this mousetrap better and make a very high-end version the way that you like it with the hooks that you like and that's exactly what you did.
Oh no, absolutely. I mean, it down from the CNC wire forms that we made. I mean, virtually. I mean, it's super strong. We had custom designed hooks, our assist hooks, specifically made to my spec for this bomb we made. The treble hooks, again, owner split rings. So it is a very strong lure. First, literally, with day 2 of getting it out to the boats, we landed a 195 pound
Crazy.
That's awesome.
All right.
Aussie on the outer limits. Sends me a picture. It's like, they work. I'm
Hey,
like,
that's
awesome.
great.
So thanks to him, to fish it like literally 2 days of getting out to market, and they hooked up a 195 pounder.
And that's going to
Crazy.
be in that prize
It'll
pack,
be in the
Cory,
pack.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
again, give us a shout, 213-432-1090, or give us a text via the app. Make sure you leave your name and telephone number. We'll have Danny Wade flip the prize coin at the end of the show. We'll be right back. It's Let's Talk Hookup. More with Jerry from JRI and Danny Wade the man when we return on the Let's Talk Hookup app, the mightier 1090 ESPN Radio.
Seasoned long-range fishermen know that the Red Rooster 3 is the finest fishing vessels in terms of technology, design, speed, comfort, and safety. This 105-foot sport fishing yacht meets every demand for comfort while delivering an unforgettable fishing vacation. Captain Andy Cates and crew are experienced, friendly, and sincere in their desire to help you have the trip of a lifetime. Book a trip on the Red Rooster 3 and you'll be back. Trips go fast. So check redrooster3.com or call Lee Palm Sport Fisheries at 619-224-3857.
Hey, San Diego, it's the Ford Black Friday sales event. 4 days of the biggest savings on an incredible selection. From F-150, Explorer, Bronco Sport, or the all-electric Mustang Mach-E. Visit your San Diego County Ford dealers now through December 2nd and get great offers across the lineup of Ford trucks and SUVs. It's the Ford Black Friday sales event, and now is the best time to get behind the wheel of your brand new Ford and drive it home today. But hurry, these offers absolutely end December 2nd. Only at your San Diego County Ford dealers. They'll be glad to hook you up.
The lighter the bite and the cleaner the water means one thing. Need a thinner leader, more natural presentations. That's where Seaguar Gold Label leader material shines. It's Seaguar's thinnest leader material yet. That means it's even less visible underwater and creates more natural presentations for better catch rates on leader-shy fish. With exceptional knot and tinsel strength, this advanced leader material is now available from 2-pound test for fishing trout in the Sierra to 80-pound test for big yellowfin in Guadalupe. Get Seaguar Gold Label at your favorite tackle dealer or learn more at seaguar.com.
I love that story.
All right. Welcome back to Let's Talk Hookup. Jerry telling all these good stories and good times and being here with Danny. And if you guys want to join us, 213-432-1090, or you can text us via the app.
Going to be a very busy morning.
Yeah.
Obviously, phones are just about completely packed up. We do have one line still open, like Cory says, the 213-432-1090. But I want to start us with a text. Lots of great texts. This one came through yesterday. So somebody was excited to put their text questions in. And it says, my question is for Dan and Jerry. I'm so excited to have you both on the radio show. My question, realistically, how long do you need to be able to cast a jig to be an effective jig fisherman? I hear all these people bragging about 100-yard casts. I practice a bit, but I still can't seem to be beyond that 65 to 70 yard. Is that good enough? Is the accuracy more important? And is a swimming jig is the accuracy and a good swimming jig more important in regards to conditions, etc.? What should I be focusing on? That's from Tim and Tarzana.
The distance is not the issue. If you look, I mean, I've been at this game for God only knows how long. And of however many yellowtail I've caught in my life locally, I'm going to venture to say that 80 to 85% of it is within 100 feet of the boat. The boat's the attractant. The boat is why they're coming up. The boat is where the food is. The swimming jig certainly doesn't hurt you, but accuracy and patience, you don't have to make that. Half the problem with, I can cast as far as anybody. Half the problem with making that big bomber cast, that 300-foot cast, is if you hook a fish on the end of your cast, you're toast.
Yeah, all he has to do is
because you're
swim,
in 20 fathoms of
down.
water. That's 120 feet. That fish swims straight down. You're done.
Yeah. And nothing you can do about it.
Nothing you can do about it. I don't care how hard you pull on it. I don't care what you do. You can't do anything about it. Wait them out. They're going to come to the boat. And again, if you look at the fish that blow up alongside most any sport boat, especially when it's on the hook, it's within 100 feet.
Interesting.
He also talks about a good swimming jig. And Jerry, I think that's one of the things that you pride yourself in is just the consistency of how well the lures swim. And there's always a human element to everything. And there's always going to be one in the batch that's slightly better than the rest. And, Danny, you talked about the idiosyncrasies of every little lure. How does one go about that? I think you touched on it. An accurate cast to a hungry fish is way more important than anything else.
Definitely.
Before I answer that question,
Please,
I think, you said 65 yards. I mean, that's plenty.
Plenty.
I've seen a jig hookup literally 10 feet from the boat.
Yeah.
So to me, I think it's about not getting that bird's nest, being confident in your cast.
That's a great point.
Because you may have maybe like that 2 or 3 minute window. The last thing you need is get that bird's nest, and then you're just picking that line, and then that bite is gone. So for me, I'd rather have a consistent cast, like Danny was saying, a specific area. You see that boil, you see that bird flashing its, flapping its wings, getting that jig there. Now, once it's in the water, this is where the jig comes in, that you got a really good jig that actually stays in the water. So what does that mean? Is you got current, you got wind, things, those little subtle things, actually what maybe the jig will pop out and then it doesn't swim. Keeping that rod tip, I think you like to keep that rod tip pointed at the jig. Some people keep
pretty much.
Yeah. Some people keep that down. Get that jig. Do not give up. Bring that jig all the way in, because
swim it all the way to the boat.
Swim it all the way into the boat, because I've seen how countless times 1, 2, 3, they'll chase that thing all the way to the boat, and then they'll beeline away. But like I said, I've seen them catch 10 feet from the boat, hooking it up, and then straight, like Dan said, straight down and game on. So for us, I mean, I'm all about putting out a good product. Years ago, shout out to In-N-Out. I used to work at In-N-Out.
Come on, really?
Yeah, I did. That was like one of my first jobs. And so it's stuck in my head. If something didn't look right, they said, when in doubt, throw it out. And I tell to the guys at the shop, I said, if you have to think about something about a jig just not looking right, just throw it out.
Aside.
Put it aside. We don't want it, because if we're at the manufacturing point of let me think about it, what is that going to mean when it's sitting on the wall? Or what if the guy who's going to pick it out for the customer is going to think about it? So we're nipping it at the butt at the production level, and believe me, it's not much, because our casting is very consistent. The aluminum, the brass we use, the zinc, very, very consistent. So minimal finishing for us. So many people think, man, you could get a jig off the wall, and it's very, very consistent.
That's what we talk about, like that, there's a we're in a tremendous era. If you're the customer of that wants to go jig fishing, there are tremendous options these days. And, there was a time when there wasn't as much, and now there's a lot of great options. But that's one of the things about JRI is you make a very, very consistent every time. If you want a blue and white one and you pick one out, you just know you're going to have a good swimming lure in your hands.
I think these guys that are especially getting into this surface iron thing in the last few years, whatever it is, I see a lot of it. And when you had Brawl and Bowden on here, a month ago or whenever that was, Matt was really hitting on it. And that's the same thing is if you're on a sport boat, you better be fishing monofilament. Leave your braid at home, or use it for a backing. But fish monofilament. You're going to get more bites. You're going to get better casts. You're not going to get as many backlashes, and you're not going to break your line off when you get a backlash. And
the mono just absorbs all those errors.
Exactly.
I mean, if you've got a fish pulling extra hard and you're pulling extra hard, the mono's your friend.
It makes you look good.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah. But I see it so much, and I don't. I used to get into this rod, that reel, whatever. I don't care what rod and reel you want to use. I could care less. But you will be more successful on a sport boat with monofilament.
Yeah.
If you're on your own center console, you can do anything you want. That's your boat. Do whatever you want. But you're on these sport boats. You want to make that cast and get that cast to those fish and do it properly. Look at everybody that works on the San Diego, the Liberty, the
Mission Bell,
the Grande, all the half-day boat guys. Look at those crew members. What do they have on their reels? It's monofilament, and there's a reason for it.
Right.
That's cool.
Very well said. Dan.
I dig it. Yeah. Jerry, I want to talk real fast about you have a lot of options when it comes to surface irons. When and why does somebody choose a size or a shape over something else? Because it's tough. I'm a huge fan. I like the Stinger. I like the 3s. I like the 4s. I like the. you make different sizes of jigs. Like when does a guy decide I want this, I want that, I want big one, I want small one? Is it region? Is it areas? The feed they're on, the way that it swims? Like there's too many options, man. I love it. Like I love every bit about it.
So what's very interesting is one of the cool things as a manufacturer is, especially when you have a large customer base. I think we're 25 retailers throughout Southern California and stuff like that. Now I start to see what are my popular jigs that are being sold in specific retailers. So now like you said, it becomes regional. And so I'll give Dana Landing, for instance, as an example. The JRI 7 is like my number one seller of jigs is Dana Landing. And I remember when they were first my customers, like, why would a Dana Landing want my jigs? It's like private boaters, right? Well, little did I find out, all these private boaters are launching right out of the launching ramp, going straight to La Jolla. And that JRI 7 is synonymous for La Jolla. And so I start to see smaller profile jigs up in the LA area. JRI 7's La Jolla. JRI 4 is a little bit larger jig, the Coronados. I had the JRI 5, which was when Cedros was open. That was our largest surface iron. That was a perfect jig for Cedros. So, the JRI 3, I love that 3 because that's like, I get so many calls of birds were hitting on that jig. Yeah. So it's just this incredible, swimming jig. The DW1, the same thing. I mean, it's just that third little skip and boom, it just there's a specific time and day when you want a specific size jig. And thankfully now, as a manufacturer standpoint, I get to see exactly what's being used where. Yeah. And I could focus now production on where the fish are, and then I could start kind of pre-flighting my production to get those jigs out there.
Some we haven't seen. I mean, I guess we have to a certain degree, but the intro to surface iron fishing, the Barracuda, like that LA, you mentioned LA and Long Beach and regions and like that, God, for my entire life has been like just an area where the Barracuda kind of gathered.
The Barracuda is also, it's a good learning fish.
That's sure how I grew up doing it, no doubt.
I might be wrong, and maybe I shouldn't say anything, but I think our issue with the Barracuda down here, for one thing, is Imperial Beach.
Oh, okay.
The sewer. Right. And the other thing are the tuna pens. Those guys seine anything to feed those tuna.
I got you.
And they cut it up. And
it's not just sardines.
No. It's anything. And I think that's also an issue with the sand bass. Now, the sand bass showed up really well down there this year. But it hasn't for 10 or 12 years,
You know what? And I've heard that too before, Danny. But listen, I worked on the EBCO and the catch line. You can't catch all that stuff, man. Like it's like.
Well, then where is it?
I don't know, but
that's what I'm getting at.
It's a great discussion. I don't know.
Where is it?
Right.
It's not one is a problem. It's all of it's a problem.
Or the other one I've heard is the Mexicans are fish trapping and catching all the sand bass. There's no way.
But again, look at the overall picture. That sand bass would start out down at the border.
Yeah.
And then it would bite all the way to San Clemente.
Yeah, you're right.
Where did it go in San Clemente?
Yeah, you're right.
Where did it go in Dana?
Yeah.
Where did it go in Newport?
I know.
And that's what I'm getting at. It's an overall problem, and I think it starts down there.
I got you.
That Barracuda is such it's the way. I mean, it was the way. I mean, at least that's the way that I grew up, was going on the new Seaforth, and you're going to it's going to teach you to cast, and it teaches you how to wind through the bites, and they're a very user-friendly fish. And then, that was the other thing too. Like, you didn't target. You always hoped for and tried to target, but it made the yellowtail such a special prize too. When the yellowtail is the fish that you target, when you don't catch it, it's man. But then when it's the special bonus, or you're a kid and you're fishing and you're excited catching Barracuda, and then you watch a Danny Wade or a Cory Sanden or a Jerry, like you watch those guys watching birds and seeing, okay, this is the opportunity, and then it was the way that I got to come up in doing it.
And that was especially the Coronado Island fishing. when I was a kid and working on the AIB boat, out of the pier, you get, if you had your 20 or 30 yellow, you had a really nice day.
Sure.
But you had, 65 bonita and 75 barracuda and assorted sand bass and calico bass along with it. And where'd all that bone go? It's offshore, but it doesn't come up the coast.
Yeah.
So
Very interesting.
Yeah.
So there's
Yeah.
reasons, there's things behind it that
Yeah.
and again, I could be way off base, but that's just my thought.
Yeah. No, I mean,
I mean,
it's a friendly debate, is what
sure,
it is.
Yeah,
sure.
that's all good.
Even when I was a kid fishing on like the Speed Twin and the Scat One and
Yeah.
whatnot out of my land.
Well, you're going back. Yeah.
Well, I've been doing this for a while. Again, the first yellowtail I caught was on the San Diego in 1965.
That's pretty
Wow.
cool.
And I caught it on a 6X Junior when I
That's
was
cool.
like 7 years old or 8 years old.
That's crazy.
And
But that yellowtail you'd see up in La Jolla traditionally were 5, 6, 7, 8 pound fish,
Yeah.
and now, man, they're 30 and 40
Legit,
pound
yeah.
fish,
Pretty fun.
and what changed there, something changed. La Jolla's always been known to put out that, one fish every 5, 6, 7 years, 25 pound test on a rent rod and a
Yeah.
strip of squid in
You got a
February.
50 pounder.
Yeah, and the guy gets a 50 pounder,
But-
never been on a boat before.
But I think that's why we love fishing. We love the ocean. As so many things change
Yeah,
and
sure.
and change for the better too,
Well,
right? I mean,
yeah.
the yellowtail at the islands currently.
Exactly, touching on the different sizes of jigs and so on. Again, La Jolla is traditionally a smaller profile. Why? The fish are bigger there than they are at the island.
Yeah, that's a great
As a
point.
rule, especially
So-
now.
We have so many good things to talk
That's gonna be
about.
great,
We've
yeah.
got, man, another
The
hour
best.
and a half,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Talking with
absolutely.
two of the gurus, and you want to join us again, 213-432-1090, or you can send us a text via the app. We're going to be right back. More great conversation when we return on Let's Talk Hookup app and the Sports Grid Radio Network.
It may be winter in Southern California, but those of us who live here know it's
Guys,
a great
right after
time of
this
year
is
to
a
go
Shimano
fishing,
live
and
spot.
certainly not
Thanks,
time
buddy.
to put your gear away. This is Ben, and you will see me at my dad's shop, Dana Landing in Mission Bay, the one-stop shop for a great day on the water. Food, bait, tackle, beverages, and more. This is the ideal time for bay bass fishing, and I get the inside scoop from Johnny. Heck, he will even rent you one of our killer blue skiffs. This is also a good time to go work on your reels, and Doug is the man for that job. If big largemouth bass are your bag, nothing beats East County Bait and Tackle. They have all the right stuff and live bait for a perfect day on the lake. Lemon Grove Bait and Tackle is super cool too, for both freshwater and saltwater tackle. ECBT is at the end of the 67 freeway on Mapleview and Lakeside. Lemon Grove Bait and Tackle is on Broadway in Lemon Grove, and Dana Landing is next to the Dana Launch Ramp in Mission Bay. Check danalanding.com for more details.
Hey, it's time to talk about great gear from Shimano. Boy, all this talk about surface iron fishing. What can you say? Couple of the best surface iron casting reels ever made. The debate: Trinidad 20A and a Tranx 500. On one side, extreme performance of that Trinidad 20A. I don't know if there's ever been a better reel made to cast a lure. And then you look at Tranx, incredibly user-friendly, variable braking system, level line, still plenty of drags, and you could put that reel in the hands of any person who's never done it before, adjust the braking system to their ability, and they're going to walk away and make cast after cast, just like Jerry was talking about, without backlash, without issue. And then, on the flip side of it, the expert, you put a Trinidad 20 in the hands of a Cory Sanden, you're going to watch a jig go as far as you want to go, farther than you want to go.
Well, Trinidad 20 definitely can change the game for sure, even for somebody who doesn't know what they're doing like myself. Yeah.
That's for sure. For more information, look at your local dealer or check out Shimano.com.
Offshore fishing is on. Hi, this is Doug Kern from Fisherman's Landing Tackle, the saltwater tackle professionals. For bluefin, tuna, and yellowtail, nothing beats the Shimano Talica, the pinnacle of lever drag 2-speed reels. Shimano Speedmaster 2 is also an extremely durable, high-performance lever drag reel for the more budget-minded angler. Both the Talica and Speedmaster 2 feature Shimano's Hagani body to prevent misalignment of moving parts under the heaviest of load. For all your Shimano, visit us at Fisherman's Landing Tackle at Fisherman's Landing in San Diego.
Captain Jamie Tennis from Season Sport Fishing here. For the past few seasons, a dart-styled metal jig has come into play in a big way for tuna offshore or even rockfish down deep. APCO's crossbreed jig has quickly become the go-to for many since it came onto the market. APCO's crossbreed jig is good to go right out of the package with a 4X treble hook, heavy-duty split rings, West Coast colors, and sizes 60 gram to 120 gram. Pick one up today at your local tackle store or learn more on apco.com.
Hey, welcome back to Let's Talk Hookup, and a shout out to April. April was listening, right?
Yeah,
Stinger's
wife.
Yeah.
Just April Montera. Hi. She just sent me a message. She says, "Great, Let's Talk Hookup today. Thank you for talking a bit about Ray. It warmed her heart." So, super big inspiration to me. Probably to a lot of us. I know
brings
Ryan,
a tear to my eye.
I know.
Man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Totally.
Ryan Boston. I mean, he's instrumental in JRI Stinger. I mean, it just there's so many people out there that were
I
so
used
much.
to piss them off all the time.
I bet you did, buddy.
Oh, trust me.
I bet you did.
I did it on purpose. I did it on purpose.
I didn't do it on purpose, but he was still always pissed off.
Yeah.
He's probably still pissed off at me up in heaven right now.
I love it.
We'd be on the Malahaney and, chasing around, bird schools and
Yeah.
sonar marks and whatever. I'd always let them have first cast.
Yeah.
Go for it, Ray. Go for it. And I'd come right behind him, make a cast, and stick my rod on his shoulder.
Oh, so
He'd
fun.
Yeah.
cuss at me.
Stinger was always so fun in the tackle store too, and he was always very forthcoming with information, and was always very willing to help somebody. But it was always a style of Stinger that had a bit of sarcasm and a bit of fun and a lot of wisdom. And that was a great man for sure. That was really cool, April. Good morning.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Well, hey, we got so much fun stuff to cover,
We
Cory.
do.
So many great things to talk about. Phones have been very busy, but we do have an open phone line if somebody wants to get through.
and that would be at 213-432-1090, and giving away an awesome assortment of JRIs today, right? I mean,
That's
just
right.
a cool hand selected from Jerry himself. How about that?
You got it. Well, hey, I wanted to read another fun text. It's from Gary in Lawndale. It says, Jerry and Danny, my question is, up in the LA area, I watch the very best jig fishermen, and they all tend to be more concerned with the birds than anything else. Can you tell us a little bit about why that is and what you're looking for? How do birds affect our jig fishing?
Turn birds. The turn birds show you where the fish are. So, and again, I've covered this numerous times, but you watch turn birds, you'll see two or three, and maybe they're 100 feet above the water, but they're sitting there just doing that flitter back and forth, and they're just, that shaking their wing, their heads are down. Well, that fish is approximately half that distance below the water. As those turn birds come closer, the fish are coming higher. They're pushing the bait up. So that's what the birds are for. The turn birds are on the fish all the time. Seagulls are picking up scraps.
Yep.
So seagulls will show you fish definitely, but
not as much as the
not
terns.
like a turn bird. Yeah, not like a turn bird.
That was a lot. I mean, if you're listening to this show and you can go back and listen to the last 20 seconds, that is everything in any fisherman's should be in their handbook right there. What Danny just said.
I mean, you can even get more into it. You can have a group of birds,
or even one bird.
That's where we're getting at. and they're milling around, they're dipping and diving, and seagulls just do that all the time anyway. And you see that one turn just stop dead in its tracks. And again, I don't know whether it be 10 feet above the water or 100 feet, but and it's head down and it's just paralyzed.
Puts the brakes on.
You better be casting. So.
No, and sometimes you could even hear when they start screeching or doing their little, and you're like, Richard Jackson, a buddy of mine, he worked for Everingham for years.
Know him very well. Yeah.
He was. I was asking him about. You see turn birds and they all just take off at the same time, and they're just squeaking and squawking, and they're hauling ass to wherever they're going. And I was talking to him about that, and he says that's because they're talking to their buddies.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's why they fly so low to the water, because sound travels better across the surface of the water. And he said they hear their buddies 5 and 6 miles away.
And that's generally when you see them down low like that. That's usually distance.
They're traveling.
Exactly.
They're going.
Man, it's pretty incredible stuff, Danny.
And Jerry, is there anything? I mean, anything better than that? That's the fish that you earned too. Anytime you get lucky enough to catch a yellowtail on a service iron, it's a great thing. A blind cast fish, you couldn't be more stoked. But boy, one where you picked it off and you were standing there having a cold one with your buddy, and you saw the birds group up and you see them get together, and one is coming, and he stops and he flares and he twitches his wings. And you make a cast right there, and your lure hits the water, and you turn the handle 3 times, and you're bit.
Oh God,
you earned that one.
Yeah,
and there's nothing better.
That's one of the things I remember Stinger doing, because he would just sit there and just not looking, and he'd smoke a cigarette, and then he's and then he just quietly just cast, and boom, he was hooked up, and that's why I learned. And then I got to the point, same thing, and I'm like, this effer's mine, this fish is mine, you know.
Yeah.
And sure enough, it's just like boom, you know, cast it right there a little, drop it, you know, 3-4 cranks, boom, you're hooked up. You're
I love it.
That is the best.
You even get to where, whether it be a group of fish or a handful of or whatever it is, and you got things working, you know, you're making the lure swim right, you're putting it in the right place. You know, okay,
Game
I
on.
should be getting bit
Yeah, it's
anytime.
go
now.
time.
And it's not, well, I hope I get bit. It's okay, come on,
Yep.
you know. And
Yeah,
boom.
you're there. Let's do this.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, the phones are packed solid, Cory. Let's jump into them.
How about Chuck? Chuck calling from Dana Point. Good morning, Chuck.
Morning,
Appreciate
Chuck.
you joining us.
Good morning, guys. Happy Thanksgiving. Man, I love that knowledge just coming through. Taking notes all the way. You know, they have the bar down the sides of the fish, what they feel, you know what? And does the heavier lures throw a bigger vibe than the lighter lure? You know, if you had a graph bar showing the strength.
There's something to that because they do have a lateral line. And, you know, the lateral line is their main source of sense. I would think that depends on the day. You know, I mean, sometimes they react to a smaller jig and a smaller profile far better than a bigger one, and sometimes it's vice versa.
Yeah.
And you know, that's a tough question to answer. You know,
let me ask it in another way that it's probably equally tough to answer. How and when do you decide which yo-yo jig to tie on? You know, I mean, you have your KO6 and 66 and Stinger heavies and DW1 heavies, and you have brass and you have zinc, and there's a lot of options in a yo-yo jig: big, small, dense, not dense. What is it? What is the determining factor most common? Is it just the depth that they're in? Is it the size of fish? Is it the mood? Like, what are the things that, you know, that make both of you guys choose to tie on one yo-yo lure versus another?
For me, it's depth and current. Depth and current is the big one. So, you know, if you're fishing the islands, at least for me, you know, the JRI6 is a smaller profile jig because, you know, you're 20 fathoms at that,
give or take.
Yeah, at the most. But now you're going up to Colnet, you're going, you know, further south, Alijos, you're much deeper. So, and usually your boat captain will tell you, it's like, hey, dude, the current is racing. You know, that's why when we're fishing bluefin tuna jigs, right, we're on the heavier because that current, you got to get down deep. So for me, it's current and you know,
getting back to this lateral line, you know, and there's so much that, you know, this is stuff that we'll probably never really truly ever know. But I can't tell you how many times I see it. And me and Brala were talking about this a while back. You make your cast on the surface iron, and you see this fish from 100 feet away, just beelining, you know. And it gets to your jig in like a second.
Oh my God.
And how did that fish 100 feet away know it's there?
Yeah, right.
I wouldn't think it could see it, but it may feel it.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know, you know. And then getting like Jerry was saying with the yo-yo thing, I prefer a smaller jig in that 20-ish fathom of water. And because you can wind it a little bit slower and still get the same amount of movement. And versus being in deeper water where you got to have it because you got to get there, but you got to wind it faster because you got to make it move. And the yo-yo fishing, I think, is more lateral line sufficient than the surface iron because, again, you know, you're fishing in, you know, 45 fathoms, you know, and visibility decreases rapidly. And they feel it. Even that bluefin, you know, you can't tell me that bluefin knows where that jig is when it's in 390 feet of water.
That's a great point.
But it feels it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like it.
For sure.
Yeah, I like it. Well, hey, we had another great text come through. It says, good morning, guys. My question is for Jerry. Out of all of the JRI lineup, if you had to choose one, what is your favorite surface iron? That's from Mac in San Diego.
Oh,
putting you on the spot.
Mac, right? Oh my gosh.
Tag, you're it.
I think the all around, it's going to be the Stinger Solid Mint.
Yeah.
That is my all around go to jig. I've seen my son fish that. I mean, that's his go to jig. He's been fishing it since he was a kid, and we were just talking about. Like,
tell us the story. Yeah.
So you guys were doing the Shimano commercial, and I'm like, you know, you guys were talking about the Tranx 500. Well, my son was, I think, 12 years old when I took him on his first long range trip, and he caught at the time, his largest yellowtail at 34 pounds fishing.
Oh my gosh.
Fishing a Stinger solid mint and on a Tranks 400. Fast forward 1 year later, he beats it at 36 pounds on a Tranks 400 Stinger solid mint. So if my son's out fishing and he's got his jig bag, it's solid mint Stinger, and that's my go-to jig as well.
I know both of you guys and had the pleasure of fishing with you. I know that you both prefer a full-size big reel for jig fishing. You're not small guys. You got big hands. You like to fish a full-size reel. But there are a lot of guys out there, like your son, maybe it's somebody younger or whatever. There are a lot of guys that do fish with a smaller, low-profile reel. I know it's not your favorite, but what I do love is how well that DW1, it's almost as if you made a surface iron for those guys. I mean, I know that a Tranks 400 will never be Danny Wade's favorite surface iron reel, but there is a lure that's got his name on it that's so universal that it fishes great for that reel's probably not going to be right for fishing a JRI 4.
Sure.
But you've got some great options for guys that do like a smaller jig reel and a smaller, like something very comfortable to fish with, a bass rod style of surface iron.
I think that was one of the best things when we developed the DW1 back in, was it 2020-ish, right around there?
Yeah, everything was closed.
Yeah, everything was closed. I mean, I thought for sure JRI was done, right? We're COVID, who knew? And
we all thought we were done.
I know, we all thought we were done, right? And so
turns out to be the best thing ever.
And so, we were working on this jig, and we're shaving off the jig, and next thing you know, we're like, I'll never forget it. We're at the bow on the Premier, and Danny had the the first prototype of the DW1, and he throws it, casts it, and literally simultaneously, Danny and I were like, whoa.
That's
cool.
Cool.
And we just see this jig and just does that kick. We're like, holy crap, what the hell? We're just blown away. And then unbeknownst to us, that it was perfect for these level wind high ratio reels. It sticks in the water.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that kind of revolutionized things a little bit, because the older reels had the lower gear ratios, the 4-to-1s, and now we're up to the 8-to-1s in the net. So jigs weren't really made for these high ratio reels that are popping out of the water, and I think the DW1's a great jig for guys who love fishing level winds, higher speed ratios, stays in the water even when the current's up. You got the winds. It's a great all-around jig.
How many variations did you like?
There's only one.
I was going to say, how what did it take before you guys knew that it was right?
I was at North Island.
Yeah.
I was with a buddy of mine, a guy named Dave Fusco, and he had a boat. Him and his partners, they had a 26, 28-foot Parker or something like that. And he asked me if I'd go with him because he wanted to learn a little bit about the island. I said, all right, let's go. And that was the same thing when it was they just kind of opened it. You had to show up in the same vehicle. You had to have your mask on and this nonsense. And we got out there and I said, let's go take a look. And they wanted to go troll. And I said, no. What'd you bring me along for if you want to go troll? And we got to North Island and said, this is where it's going to be. And instead of traditionally, like in that 20 fathom, the stuff was up in like 14 and 15. And we had 12 fish on the boat that day, and I had 9 of them.
Wow.
And it all came on that DW1, the original.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I broke it when I hit the island. but and I said, well, yeah, we're on something.
This is it.
Yeah.
And again, when we were on the bow of the Premier, because Bobby Taft was on the side of the Top Gun looking at it, and Ray Summer was kind of, it was all kind of, oh.
Hey, what's that? What's that? Get me. And what's that? How do I get my hands on it?
Yeah.
I like it.
When we first got that first batch in, there were guys waiting at the door.
Oh yeah, it was insane. My buddy John at Blue Pacific Tackle, we crashed his website when literally he had 500 jigs within 20 minutes. He posted them. They just disappeared.
I love it.
Crazy.
I love it, man. That's so cool.
Pretty crazy stuff. Hey, we're going to be right back on Let's Talk Hookup. We've got catch reports coming up,
buddy.
Fish reports, your calls, texts, and more when we return on Let's Talk Hookup app and the Sports Grid Radio Network.
Hey everyone, everyone. James Holst here with Norsk Lithium, the official battery partner of Let's Talk Hookup. Here at Norsk Lithium, we have two goals that drive who we are and what we do. The first is to make the highest quality, longest lasting lithium batteries available with a complete lineup of batteries that include 12, 24, 36 volt, and starting batteries. Second, in addition to offering a 10-year warranty on all Norsk Lithium marine batteries, we provide amazing customer service before and after the sale. Check us out online at norsklithium.com. That's NORSK lithium.com, or call us at 831-232-9063. Or to see Norsk Lithium batteries in person, stop by the Trolling Motor Doctor in Lakewood or Anglers Marine in Anaheim and see why Norsk Lithium batteries should be in your boat.
No matter where the adventure takes you, we've got you powered. Norsk Lithium.
Great fishing is what Seaforth Sports Fishing in Mission Bay is all about. With free parking and fully stocked tackle shop, Seaforth Sport Fishing is a favorite among anglers. Come aboard top boats like the Aztec, Cortez, Endeavor, Apollo, Outer Limits, Elgato Doe, Pride, Polaris Supreme, Tribute, Pacifica, Pacific Voyager, and the Voyager. Plus, the new Seaforth Sea Watch in San Diego offer the finest half and full day trips available. Seaforth Sport Fishing. For charters or schedule, check seaforthlanding.com. Run by fishermen for fishermen in Mission Bay.
Sports Grid Radio Network is the premier audio streaming channel dedicated to serving the massive sports wagering and fantasy audience. Found on the Sports Grid app and SiriusXM. Sports Grid's real-time data transforms viewers into informed sports enthusiasts. Get the best in-game live coverage during all the games, as well as the most in-depth pre-game previews from hosts like Scott Farrell, Donnie Rightside, Ben Stevens, Gabe Morency, and many more. To find out where you can listen to Sports Grid, go to sportsgridradio.com. It's smarter to be on Sports Grid.
24 years ago, I visited this amazing place called Hawaii Archipelago. I just could not get enough of these amazing islands, natural beauty, friendly people, and phenomenal fishing. I knew I had to spend more time there. Moving forward to today, here I am, a fishing lodge owner. Hi, this is Valerie Hilbridge from Queen Charlotte Safaris in beautiful Hawaii Islands, British Columbia, Canada. We are a boutique lodge just steps from the Sanskrit Harbor, offering a truly unique fishing adventure. Our fishing is world class. You will fish for king salmon, halibut, lingcod, and much more. Our fishing grounds are untouched, unspoiled, and surrounded by stunning scenery. We are dedicated to making your adventure an experience that will be a lifetime of memories. We will welcome you as friends, and you will leave as part of the Queen Charlotte Safaris family. You will come for the fishing, and you'll come back for the memories. We are booking now. Please give me a call at 1-877-815-2892, or check us out on Instagram, Facebook, or our website, qcsafaris.com.
Inside information is everything when it comes to catching fish in Southern California. You need a code group to connect with what's happening on the water. FishDope.com is your code group. Inside information available at your fingertips 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. FishDope.com really does help you catch more fish and burn less fuel. FishDope.com is the only fish finding service with a spotter plane, along with a crew of top anglers on the water almost every day that report actual locations and catches. They become your code group. You get daily catch reports from Point Conception to San Catine, 365 days a year. FishDope.com has online planning tools, temperature and chlorophyll charts, hot bite icons, and more. Take it from me, if you don't have FishDope.com, you're not part of the in-the-know crowd. Membership is affordable and good for an entire year. Plus, use the special code and save $30 on a new FishDope.com membership. Check it out today. FishDope.com. Catch more fish, burn less fuel.
Now it's time for more of Southern California's sports fishing voice. Let's talk hookup. Get ready for more of the best fishing information and the hottest tips on improving your angling skills. Let's Talk Hookup is sponsored in part by Ford, the official truck of Let's Talk Hookup. Shimano Rods and Reels. Fish with the best. Shimano. And now, Southern California's sports fishing voice, the hosts of Let's Talk Hookup, Pete Gray, Rock God Rick Maxa, and Cory Sanden.
Welcome back. Hour number 2, Let's Talk Hookup coming your way here on the Let's Talk Hookup app on the Sports Grid Radio Network. We always joke because I always do a bad job of stepping on Cory coming out of the breaks. And this is the one time when Pete always does it. I'm looking at Cory like, hey, man, you can say something? Or like, oh, yeah, no, it's my turn.
and good on you for being so patient.
I'm used to sitting in the Cory chair. Well, we're having a great time here this morning, talking fun. As you heard, Pete Gray out of the studio today, having some family time in a very cold and chilly place. But I know he's listening and having a great time, and happy Thanksgiving to Pete and the fam back east. But boy, what a great show today has been in the sun and the fun. And we're talking something that is near and dear to my heart. And boy, I know everybody out there that's surface iron fishing, and 2 of the absolute greats doing it with us today, Cory.
Pete's dreaming about it as that lake effect snows just creeping across, and we've got 75-degree weather here. It's beautiful. And having a great time with Jerry from JRI and Danny Wade, the man, been the man for many, many decades. And it's an honor to have him in studio. And if you want to join us, 213-432-1090, or you can text us via the app. The line's been busy. The texts have been coming through, and giving away an awesome JRI package at the end of the show, too.
Yeah, that brand new depth charge we talked about, a bunch of great jigs from JRI, and man, just what a cool price back, Jerry. That was very gracious of you, and we're really excited and stoked to get to do it. And hey, speaking of being stoked, it's time to find out what's biting out there. It is time for the Catch Report, which is sponsored today by Summit Gasoline at the San Diego Sports Arena. It is the place to fill up your car, your truck, or your boat with the lowest in gas and diesel prices. Did you know that Summit is also the place to get the lowest prices on ice and snacks for your trip? 25 cents for your first 5-pound bag of ice. Let me read that again.
That's crazy.
25 cents for a 5-pound bag of ice, or $3.99 for a 25-pounder. That's as many as you want. Not a 20-pound bag like most places, but a 25-pound bag for $3.99. That's half the price of most of the others. Plus, you get 100 pounds of free ice with a 35-gallon fill. Kirkland products at lower prices in the store that makes them. Dozens of snacks at lower than 89 cents and more. It's Summit Gasoline, free ice for Let's Talk Hookup listeners, and always the low prices at the San Diego Sports Arena. We got him standing by, our private boater buddy, Captain Mark Wish is on the line. Good morning, Mark.
Hey, good morning, Ricky, Cory, Danny, Jerry. Way too much fun for you guys this morning. What a great show.
We are, man.
Love
it's a good time in here.
Yeah, it's awesome. So we're hoping everybody had a great Thanksgiving, and now with the holiday behind us and the weather forecast, I mean, it's got to be as good as it gets for this time of year. It's definitely time to go fishing here. So up north, a lot of squid at the islands up there. And with the nice weather, the guys are going to get a chance to look around, see if they sniff out some sea bass and yellows up there this weekend. And then at Nick and SBI on the outside, very little coverage here recently. What has been out there has been looking at the bottom fish. No reports of exotics in quite some time. Catalina, a lot of boats over there for the holiday weekend. And more than a few had lobster to go along with the turkey. Hooping's been really good at the island here this year. And as the fishing, flat, calm weather makes it really easy to fish that halibut up shallow. The halibut fishing's been good already. In the last couple of winters, it's just been stellar. So this the way the conditions are right now, it's really easy to fish that fish in 20 to 40 feet of water. The bottom fishing on the hard bottom southwest of the west end there has been really steady, nice percentage of good-sized red snappers out there. And then locally, all the bottom fish are biting really well. The white fishing sculpin up shallow. A few sand bass, not too much. Reds and lings out deeper on the live squid. And with the squid local, a lot of us being caught right off of Cabrillo right there. You guys want a shot at a local sea bass? Point Furman Reef is a longtime favorite of mine this time of year. If you get the uphill conditions, which we've had, you set up on the outside rock in 8 fathoms and fly line a squid back into that. And if you do hook a fish, there's usually a lot of lobster traps around there, so you kind of got to be proactive. Sometimes you got to slack off the anchor, back the boat up so you can get undone from the lobster traps. But, man, we've had some really good sea bass fishing at this time of year in that location there. And then on the outside, no reports since last weekend. You guys caught some yellows, saw some bluefin. And but with the conditions we've got, I just looked at the weather a little bit ago. The buoy outside the Tanner 3 feet at 8 seconds and 4 knots of wind. That's as nice as it gets for out there. And there are some boats out there, so I'm sure we're going to get some reports. And hopefully they find them biting yellows and a few bluefin to go along with them. So that's this week's report. Time to go fishing, guys.
I like it, Mark. Great report as always. Excellent info. If you want to keep up on that fish dope info, you can always do so using the code Hookup Now. It saves you $30. All lowercase, no space. Hookup Now saves you $30 on that new membership. And Mark, if somebody wants to keep in touch with you, get the best bait tank on the market, or just all the great knowledge and info and gear at Pacific Edge, how do we find you?
Ricky, we're on the corner of Bolsa Chica and Edinger in Huntington Beach. Phone number at the store is 714-840-4262. The website's pacificedgetackle.com. And I'm going to sit back and sip my coffee and listen to more of this jig fishing stuff you guys are talking about. What a great show.
That's awesome, Mark. Appreciate it very much, buddy. Talk to you next week.
You got it. We'll see you guys.
All right. Well, while we're waiting for Marcos, why don't we snag a phone call there, Cory?
Let's do it, Rick. How about Sean? Sean calling from Lomita. Good morning, Sean.
What's up, Sean?
Hey, good morning. Happy Thanksgiving, all you guys.
You too, buddy.
And thanks a lot for, yeah, I'm thankful for this show, getting all this information. It's another class about surface iron. Anyway, sorry, I'm on my walk. I was just wondering about retrieve. When you're retrieving jigs, surface irons, do you go with different speeds for different jigs? Or is there one consistent way to retrieve them?
Depends on the jig, depends on the current, depends on the swell, depends on a lot of things.
And it could be different, even if you have 10 of the same jigs. It could be.
Yeah, you got to figure out the jig you're fishing with, and you got to make it work. Again, you know, like I've said before, I could hand you the best swimming jig you will ever own, but if you don't fish it properly, you still don't get a bite. It's a learning curve. There is no one set speed, no one set retrieve, no one this or that. It's a learning curve, and you got to take the time and figure it out. Nobody can tell you to turn a handle this many times in the course of 30 seconds.
Sure.
It just doesn't work, you know.
What are the attributes that we're looking for in knowing that we've achieved the right speed with the jig?
Or equally as important, the negative attributes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, going back to that also is you know what your gear ratio of your reel is you know that's another factor.
Right.
You know, we got to look back to
Danny could be fishing a 4-to-1, you a 5-to-1, and Cory a 6-to-1, standing right next to each other.
Absolutely.
And that makes a huge difference.
There's a lot, and size of spool. See,
right.
That's where the low profile reel has its disadvantage.
Yep.
You can have a 6-to, say you've got 3 reels that are 6-to-1. You've got a Torium 20. Pick one, whatever, something else is 6-to-1, but basically the same size, and you got a 400 whatever in a low profile. They're all turning the spool at the same amount of times.
Each one, the handle goes around one time, the spool spins 6 times.
Right, but the line retrieve ratio
Yeah.
is so much different because the small bait caster is a little tiny spool.
Yeah, if a golf ball spins around 6 times or a tennis ball spins around 6 times,
It doesn't
their
pick,
yeah,
it doesn't pick up as much as a basketball.
totally.
Yeah.
And that's where the difference really comes in. So it's you got, you know, your jig, you want your jig to stay in the water. You want it to have these 3 or 4 or 5 kicks, you know, sharp kicks, and then it's going to kick off to the side, and it's going to just, and it'll even pull harder, you know, and that's what you're looking for. But the retrieve will depend on your reel, depend on the length of your rod. You make a long cast, you got your rod pointed straight at it. As you wind that jig, gets closer to the boat, you drop your rod tip. So that changes dynamics. You know, there's a lot that goes into it, but there is no yes or no answer.
Sure.
Yeah. I think maybe 30 years ago that maybe would have been a more consistent, because most reels like your Penn 500 had your standard spool size.
Yeah, it was all the same.
It was all the
right,
same.
yeah.
So I kind of look to like what would be the modern version today of like a Penn 500. We talk about the Trinidad 20. For me, like the accurate Turn 2 500.
That's what I use.
Yeah,
90% of
that exactly, and that's I think going back to your standard kind of old school.
But it's that same. That's the same size 20 reel.
Yeah, right.
Same size 20 reel. Obviously, just a beefier version tricked out, with all the modern latest greatest.
What's cool about the insides of those, they look amazingly similar to like a very heavy duty version of a Newell. They're very similar components to what a Newell was, just modern beefy.
See, I mean, Newell, when he started out making components first, that's what Carl started out. He was actually a plastics guy. I mean, he made like cover boards for typewriters and whatnot, but he liked fishing. And when he came out with his first reel, which the gear ratio was 5-to-1, I mean, that was just
revolutionary.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, what is the world coming to?
And that big old power handle. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, today's world it isn't.
At that time, it was. Yeah.
My gosh. Real quick too, and I don't want to get into the winds too far, but Cory, you made a great point. What is a negative part of it? Like what, when you're making a cache and you're on the negative side of things, like what are you looking for to avoid, or if you start doing X, you need to stop because that's something we don't want to have happen.
So for me, I think it's obviously if let's say you're winding too fast, right? That jig is just winding and it's just wiggling it versus swimming it and seeing the action.
Doesn't have that kick out that Danny was talking about.
Exactly. So along the lines is focusing and paying attention to what your retrieve speed is. I think a lot of times, we get so jacked up in that adrenaline.
Sure.
You may like 10 minutes ago, you got that constant, that retrieve going. All of a sudden, once things start blowing up, before you know it, you're not even knowing. You're just focused, got that tunnel vision going, and you're like winding twice as fast without even knowing it. So it's being very consistent. And because you may be like, why the heck am I not catching anything? I'm throwing my jig, everything's looking good, but you know what? It's just that nuance of
being fired up.
Yeah, you just got to focus and just be consistent and look at your hand and what you're doing, because just that little thing might be enough to the difference of you hooking up and the guy next to you doing it.
I'm thinking about today's era, Danny, and today's era, like compared to 30 years ago, you had the traditional Tatty 45, but within that Tatty 45, there were so many variations.
Oh God, yeah.
There were pointed noses, flat noses,
concave backs, flat backs.
Yeah. There are 9 different jigs on the pattern board. Yeah, on the original pattern board.
Yeah.
But out of those 9, there were 3 variations of each.
Yeah.
Well, there were
20 something.
There were 5 blunt nose and 4 pointed nose. Yep. I've seen all that stuff.
And then, then you had the rounded up top and then the flat at the bottom.
Yeah.
You had all that. I mean, imagine if I changed the stinger 9 different times.
Right? But that's
oh my God.
That's what's fun too.
But that's what's going through my head. Like today's angler can go get a JRI or another local custom jig, and it's nearly 100% every single time.
The jig is only as good as the person that uses it.
Bingo.
And that's not to take away from anybody that's making a lure.
Yeah. And the knowledge, the knowledge you have, Danny, and the knowledge you have, Jerry, is something that comes with time on the water. Exactly. And it's hard to, it's so difficult to be able to voice that and explain and teach that. It's just.
You're not going to learn it by looking at YouTube.
Or reading it, or
you got to get your ass on the water.
Yeah.
Pardon my French, but
true. Speaking of,
you got to get on the water. You got to put your time in. You got to learn how to do it and to make it work. That speaking of, I said bringing up this subject.
Yeah, perfect.
This seems like a good time. We're myself, anybody that knows Tony Bangos, with CCA and so on.
Formerly the Grande, now working with CCA.
I was talking to her about why aren't there more women that do the surface iron thing? Nobody's got an answer, and it's not like you can't do it. You don't have to be big and bad, and you don't. I mean, look at Stinger; he was barely 5 foot tall. Look at Tony; she's 5 foot on a good day. Robin, same thing; she's just a little tiny thing. They can all pick up a long rod and make it work just as well as anybody. And so we're doing a deal. It'll come after the first of the year sometime when you'll actually be able to get into it. But, an instructional, probably half or 3/4 day. I don't know what boat, that's kind of Tony's department. But I'll be on the thing, doing a seminar about introducing women to surface iron fishing. You know, if you want to bring your husband or boyfriend, so be it. You know, it's not like exclusively women only.
Yeah,
but
that's
catering.
But yeah,
with the women in mind.
And you know, and I can give the how to and do this and so on. But Tony's going to be on the rig as well, and she's, you know, hey, look at me, I do this.
Yeah, and from a gal's point of view, like
yeah, and from a woman's point of view, I don't understand why there are not more women doing this. Look at the excitement you get out of just us four here, and your eyes light up and your heart starts pumping.
Fires me.
I want to go
and it's
right
all,
this
it's
second.
all about surface iron fishing.
Yeah.
There is no better way to catch a bass or a yellowtail or anything of that nature than it is on a surface iron.
Well, I can think of a way to catch a bass in a better way.
There's always,
I'll challenge you.
there's always got to be one guy in the bunch.
Let's continue on with our catch report. Go to a spot that I know a whole lot of you like, and that's over at C4 Sport Fishing. We got Marcos standing by. What's up, Marcos?
Good morning, guys. How's everyone doing?
Great, buddy. Good morning.
Well, we talked about the San Diego starting at 7-4, and they picked away the last couple weeks. They were catching 1-2 yellowtail here, there. Finally paid off yesterday, excuse me. 13 yellowtail on the San Diego to go some good bottom fishing.
Cool.
So it looks like that's pretty good for some local yellowtail fishing. Exactly what we're expecting out of those 7-4 trips when they go out there and they can put in the time, catch some yellowtail, catch some other fish in there. New Seaforth actually had a yellowtail in the afternoon also, so it looks like they made a good showing. Overall, those half-day trips, very good deep water fishing in the morning there and reds and rockfish. Nice mix of fish in the afternoon, whitefish, sheephead, bass. Like I said, 1 yellowtail yesterday. And as long as weather holds steady, we're going to keep going out there and hopefully we're going to see more of those yellowtail. Both boats are back out there today. Check the website, seaforthlanding.com, for those half-day trips. We're still running those morning and afternoon trips right now on the new Seaforth. San Diego running those 7-4, so you have lots of options there. Those longer trips, the Tribute still has all those weekend day and a half trips scheduled here. So starting next year, they'll be running some of those call net trips. So lots of options for you guys. Check out the website there. Give us a call at the office, 619-224-3383. More than happy to help you guys out, get you out there fishing. Except not a long report, but a pretty good report there.
That's
you
a
know,
great
the boat
one.
trips we're fishing consistently are doing really well. So check the website, give us a call, come down, visit us in person. Time to do some Christmas shopping, get some gift cards. Get some stuff for yourself for Christmas. Why not? Right?
You talked about 13 fish not only being a great day, but, Danny had mentioned before, too, the grade of fish that those guys caught in the San Diego was super nice. Really nice big yellows. And let's not forget that tomorrow's December. I mean, we'll take that on a local trip any day.
Exactly. And like we talked about before, I mean, 15 years ago, 13 yellowtail on that Coronado Island trips would have been, season making.
No doubt.
Now it's like, local trip going out there and catching the same thing.
I think that's just such a great call that those guys did doing that local trip. It's winter time. It's a greatly reduced ticket price. It introduces you to the brand of fishing that the San Diego is known for, the great service and the great fishing and all that. What a cool trip. One more time, if somebody wants to book one of those, Marcos, how do we do it?
Check the website, seaforthlanding.com. We've got our schedules up there for all the boats, for those half days, the full days, a day and a half. Whale watching is actually really good right now. Like we said, if you have people visiting that might not want to spend the whole day on the water fishing, but just want to check out and see what it's like out there, very good whale watching, so that's always an option. Give us a call at the office, 619-224-3383. More than happy to help you guys out, answer any questions, get you set up, and get you out there.
Right on. Great job, Marcos. Appreciate it very much. Hope you had an awesome Thanksgiving, and we'll talk to you next week.
I'll talk to you then, guys.
All right, and that's brought to us by the Fish Pros at Fishman's Processing in San Diego, where you get your premier processing experience. Check out the easier online system to book your processing for your long-range trips. And with more team members, Fisherman's Processing stays far ahead of the rest. More same-day capacity and the finest customer service. Stop by the location in Old Town on Taylor Street, or you can check them out at fishmansprocessing.com and make those reservations today.
Thought this would be a fun text. Says, Jerry, where and how did you get your start in making jigs? I always look forward to this show. So stoked to have Danny in here sharing his knowledge and what he has to say about fishing the lure. It's my favorite way to catch a yellowtail. Thanks for everything you both do, Stephen and Mission Viejo.
All right. Hey, Steve. God, where do I start? I'll try to condense it here as fast as I can. It all started, it was a hobby turned business. It was never meant to be a business. It was something, the old adage, if you want it done right, do it yourself. So back in the day, I remember Danny Wade seeing him. He didn't know who I was at the time. I mean, I collected old jigs. I would see the jigs he was fishing. I was like, oh, I was paying all this money for these old jigs, old bartenders were like $200 and all that stuff like that. And I'm like, why, this jig is like 50 plus years old. I mean, this was like 20 years ago or whenever it was. So I started kind of just, my mind started going into like, well, why can't we make a jig, better mousetrap today? And so what I did was kind of look at the methodology of how these older jigs that were, have stood the test of time was happening. And I decided to do it on my own. And so back then, I mean, I was fishing, God, I think there was one year when I was living here in San Diego, I was on the San Diego, like 75 days on the water. Like, I mean, so Booger and I were tight, and Booger's dad, Jim Boston, I'd see him there every day, loading up the boat and stuff. And I started casting my own jigs. At first I started painting them, back when the color shifting paints were kind of cool. And actually I'll backtrack a little. I was at the Monterey Bay Aquarium. That's where it all started. I was at the Monterey Bay Aquarium, which is probably the best aquarium out there. And I'm sitting under the anchovy exhibit. I don't know if you guys been there. And it's this dome. It's like up on the ceiling. It's a dome. And you see these anchovies just going in circles. Or no, they're sardines. Excuse me, sardines. And I'm like, these sardines don't look like the sardines that are in our bait tanks, down south. So I asked one of the people there. I'm like, hey, is this the same sardine that's down south? And they're like, oh yeah, it is. I'm like, well, are these all silver? And the ones down south are like got the green back to the little dots. And I'm like, oh, because they're stressed. I didn't realize bait fish change color. And there's an anchovy exhibit as well. And they're all silver with a pink, tint to it. So I started mimicking the color shifting paints way back when. And then I started getting into making my own jigs. And then next thing you know, we're catching fish on my jigs. And, I'm handing them to like Booger and, the deckhands. And they're like, dude, we're catching fish. And it was just kind of like this little secret. I'm like, oh, no big deal. And then it was a good friend, Jim Boston's good friend, Jim Castorf, who makes great custom rods. Hey, Jim, if you're listening, great guy. He taught me how to weld rings. And so from there, he knew or met Luke at Angler's Choice, and he probably gave a couple of my jigs to Luke. And that's kind of how it all started. So Luke over at Angler's Choice was my first customer. He had me for like the first 3 years. I couldn't keep up the demand. I mean, it was just a one-man band. And, basically I just reinvested the money, and to the point now that, we have our own foundry, we produce everything. And and
that's an
here
awesome
we are.
story, incredible man. Story. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I love it.
Getting to that pink hue on the anchovy. This is probably something most people have no idea, but Taddy for years and years used a pink primer.
Oh, okay.
No kidding.
Very interesting.
I didn't know that. That's cool. It reminds me, similar to the, story of you, Cory, like, you spent a lifetime looking at bait and seeing, and like that flash bulb, whatever it is, goes off like.
I almost felt offended, man. He was kind of talking about the Everingham bait like it wasn't good.
I like it. Let's jump into the phones, Cory.
No, it's all good stuff, Jerry. How about Rich and Bradley?
What's
Good
up,
morning,
Rich? Yo, Rich.
Hi, guys.
Good morning, buddy.
You talk. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, buddy. Go ahead.
Yeah, Danny made a really good point about the turnbirds, and up here where I fish next to Bradley is Lake San Antonio. We used to have a whole lot of stripers in there. They died off in 2017, and I fished it for quite a while. And one of the things that it took me quite a while to learn was the turns were the key to finding the fish. It wasn't the seagulls, it wasn't the pelicans, and they all hung out around the lake. But when I found the turns, it was like the hair stood up on my arms.
It's no matter where you go. I mean, Brandon Viet, the guy that runs the Premier, he's big time into bass fishing. He's been fishing otay back in Harvey's Arm. I know that shad gets up in there. That's all on turnbirds. It's all on turnbirds. The seagulls are there, but when the bass come up, they spread that bait up a little bit. The turnbirds are all over it.
And it's the same thing like reading the Yellowtail, right? Like there could be 100 turns, but it's just those one or two that are 100 yards off to the side acting differently than.
Yeah, a lot of times it's
same thing on a lake.
I mean, you can be in South Dakota. It doesn't matter. I mean, birds fly wherever they want to. People ask, well, why do I see seagulls in Nebraska? Well, that's where they go to nest.
Yeah.
They go back to the Midwest to lay their eggs, and then they can fly back out here. But turnbirds are an amazing creature. Pay attention.
What's so rad and then frustrating at the same time of those things is like they can be on you, and especially offshore, it's gray, and that bird can just disappear at the same time. You're watching, following, and you see him following, and like, man, that bird turns a different direction, and it's just gone.
But in the glasses, they also just appear too.
Oh, yeah. 100%, man, 100%. Like, am I seeing that right? Like, you blink your eyes, like, oh yeah, no, that's it, that's them. Go, go, go. Yeah. Hey, I had another real fun text this morning. It says, good morning, guys. Nothing beats this surface iron talk. My first JRI jig came out of a pile of kelp that I found on the beach after a surf session in PB. Wow. To this day, it's my best swimming jig, and I've caught lots of yellowtail and bass on it. It was sanded down to a dull aluminum finish from rolling around in the surf. Needless to say, I've purchased a bunch more since then. They're my favorite lure. Thanks for making a great product from Rory and Lakeside.
What a cool story.
Yeah, I love that.
Wow. That's
a good one, Jerry.
Yeah, that's a feel-good moment right there.
But that's also a test to the here we go again. What's the best color?
Yeah.
Well, for him, apparently it's aluminum.
Yeah, right.
No doubt.
Exactly.
That's the original color, right?
That's all they ever used to be.
I was going to say, back in the original days, that was it, right?
They were just aluminum. They weren't painted. Yeah.
That's some good stuff, man. Hey, we're going to be right back with more good stuff and your calls when we return on Let's Talk Hookup app and the Sports Grid Radio Network.
The state-of-the-art long-range fishing vessel, the Independence, delivers the top quality, comfort, and fishability you look for in a long-range boat. Veteran captains Mark Pisano and Paul Strasser built this incredible 112-foot vessel with the most modern technology and luxurious comfort available. Once you go on the Independence, you'll be back. Call Independence Sports Fishing at 619-226-6006 or check independencesportfishing.com.
It's time for the Power Pro 30-second seminar. I like catching big fish, and I like smaller reels, too. How do I make sure that I have the capacity to land the big one? I fill my reels with Power Pro Max Quattro. It's 25% thinner than standard Power Pro, so you get more line on that small reel. Power Pro has a complete series of highly effective lines, including the brand new Power Pro Depth Hunter Offshore, with different colors every 100 feet. Perfect for flatfall fishing. Want to learn more? Check powerpro.com.
For your next fishing adventure, check Point Loma Sport Fishing. They offer half-day and full-day trips daily, perfect for families and the novice or seasoned fishermen. Point Loma Sport Fishing also offers overnight to multi-day trips, targeting the best of seasonal catches. Visit PointLomaSportFishing.com, where you can purchase tickets online and get more information on the trips available, or call 619-223-1627. Want to go fishing? Point Loma Sport Fishing has you covered.
There are moments that change our perception of what is and isn't possible. Cosmic shifts where the stars align with the earth to alter how we see the world. The release of King Tide is one of those moments. This is the crowning achievement of Costa's 40-year legacy on the water, the culmination of every innovation and lessons learned up until this point. Wins and losses and highs and lows have brought us here to stand witness to a legacy brought to life, to achieve the ultimate potential on the water. Costa King Tide, rule the water.
Hello, this is Captain Mike Totter from Searcher Sport Fishing. Alongside my colleague, Chef Josh Evans, and our dedicated team, we invite you to join us aboard the Searcher. Our fishing trips range from a day and a half to 8 days, available May through November, and include charter options. We're committed to upholding a legacy of top-notch customer service, delicious food, and a friendly and talented crew. Book your fishing adventure online at searchersportfishing.com or call Rachel at 619-226-2403. That's searchersportfishing.com. We look forward to welcoming you aboard.
All right, welcome back to Let's Talk Hookup, and man, all this jig talk and bait talk and just having a great time. And
dude, I want to catch a yellowtail right now so freaking bad.
I know it.
Go to La Jolla.
I know. I got no excuse, man. They're biting. It was 13 yesterday in San Diego.
Dude.
Yeah, I'm into it.
December tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, how cool is that?
Like you mentioned, man. That's
you look outside like this is why it costs so much to live here. This is why I get so frustrated with fuel. This is why I get so frustrated with traffic. Like,
there's some of us
it's worth it, man.
There's some of us that have to leave this to go to Cleveland.
Oh, what are you doing right
28
now?
degree weather.
You know he's listening. Like, what are you doing? What are you
But to come back and realize why it's so expensive here.
No doubt, man.
I'll take it.
Gonna jump
I
on
don't
that
know.
Steiger, go catch a Yellowtail this week.
Right?
Yeah.
I know it.
Well, hey, we're having a great time, man, and we would love to have you join us. It's been a busy morning, Cory.
It has. It truly has. And there's still time to get in, man. If you want to give us a call, 213-432-1090, or you can send us a text via the app and giving away a cool JRI assortment.
Yeah, no doubt, buddy. Well, the phone lines are absolutely packed. I mean, we have every single phone line full. It's been a busy morning, but we're going to be getting your phone calls. Keep going. We're going to get you through. Let's grab a phone call, Cory.
Let's do it, Alex. Alex from San Carlos. Good morning, Alex.
Hey, good morning, guys. Great show. You guys pretty much answered all my questions, but I'll just share like a surface iron story. Probably like 35 years ago, first time I ever actually like fished surface iron. I was with my family down in Santa Tomas. My grandpa, my dad, aunts and uncles were all in these like little pungas. And on the way back, we saw a bunch of birds, and we just loaded up the ice chest with barracuda. And like I've never done anything like that. It was the funnest thing in the world. And we all used, they're like Caddy 45s, but you don't see too many of those people use them anymore. But it was like the chrome green Mac and the chrome blue Mac. And it honestly, that experience is like what really got me hooked into fishing.
Oh, yeah.
And surprisingly, I actually still have those surface irons. I fish them all the time. They're like my favorite surface irons. I make sure to double, triple check my knots on those. I just never want to lose those.
Yeah, don't lose that.
Well, that's the thing that people don't do. You see guys get excited. They hang a fish. Maybe they catch two on it. They don't check the knot. They don't check the line for chafing, gaff chafing.
Especially with barracuda.
But even like just the gaff itself.
Yeah.
Your line gets wrapped around a gaff and it chafes your line. You got to check the knot. You got to check the chafing. Check that 4 or 5 feet from the knot on up and make sure it's nice and smooth.
You guys both mentioned fishing with mono. What size line do you like to cast?
40 pound.
40 pound.
Yeah, I'm a 40 pound Iser line.
It flies off the reel easy. If you get lighter, I mean, technically, if you want to get real technical, 30 pound probably make your jig work a little bit better, but it doesn't cast as well because it falls into the cracks. 40 pound flies off a reel. It's a little more user friendly, especially when you get into the sea lion issue.
Sure.
You can maybe you get a shot at getting a fish on the boat you want it done on lighter line. And you get into 50 pound, it doesn't cast as well.
Mm-hmm.
So the 40 pound is just a happy medium.
Yeah,
I like it.
It's great. And then remember, today's technology. I mean, this copolymer stuff now. It's 40 pound is probably realistically 48, maybe even 50 pounds. So
sure,
with a great knot, you're. I mean, God, we've caught 40 pound yellowtail on bait and on the surface iron down south. So I've seen, it's amazing. So 40 pound for me.
And Danny, you mentioned it earlier too, with a true surface iron rod, try to break 40 pound. Try to break 40 pound with a bend in the rod. You can't do it. Yeah. That's a great.
You got to point it at it and put your thumb on it.
That's a good call. Hey, this was a fun text came through, and good call, Alex. Thanks very much. Says, good morning, guys. Question for Danny and Jerry. As experts in surface iron fishing, I'm curious what jig stick, rod, and reel combo you would recommend for somebody that's just starting out in surface iron fishing. That's from Brian in San Diego.
I would do something between, say, 8.5 and 10 feet. Again, it's up to you. I'm a 10-foot guy, and I got this thing going with, Fishing Syndicate, the Danny Wade Special, and it's a 10-foot S-class. Thing's 20% lighter, casts like a dream, but it's not for everybody. It's not. None of them are for everybody. You got to find your own happy medium, and whatever rod and reel it may be, as long as you're good with it, doesn't matter what somebody else says.
Do you have that rod at H&M?
Not yet.
Okay. Still in the development process.
Materials and that kind of thing.
Sure.
But
But come showtime, maybe like PCS show.
I'm gonna think even sometime after the first of the year.
Okay.
I think that's a great point. I mean, I think that's where your local tackle shops come into play.
Mm-hmm.
A good tackle shop's going to have a variety of rods and reels out there, and you just gotta tug on them. I mean, we're all built different. I mean, Danny, what, you're 6'4", 6'3"? How tall are you?
I'm 6'6" on a
good
standing straight up day.
I'm 6 feet minus 0.1 inches, right? So we're all different, and you might like a glass, you might like a carbon fiber. So just go out there and feel it, and something what we're doing. We do a bunch of sponsored trips throughout the year. I've got a ton of rods, CalStars, Seekers, you name it. I'm bringing these as demo rods.
Oh, that's cool.
So Ben over at Accurate has been very kind enough. We're going to be doing some demo reel stuff as well. So we're gonna attach these turn 2 reels on these rods, so people could.
That's a great idea.
So every time we go out on a sponsor trip, we're going to bring a variety of rods so people can test and see exactly what they like, because nowadays, rods aren't cheap like they used to be. So it's a big investment.
I hear at the tackle store when somebody's coming in to buy a surface iron outfit, they've been fishing for a few years, they've been going half day and 3/4 day fishing, and they've casted a lure on the rods that they had, but they're finally wanting to step up and buy their dedicated surface iron outfit. There's always an intimidation on the length of rod, and I'm not ready for a 10-foot rod. Is there any difference in skill set to the difference between casting an 8-foot versus 9-foot versus 10-foot?
In my opinion, it's all the same. You still got to look behind you. You still got to make a cast. You still got to keep your thumb on spool. It's easier to get that extra 20 feet or 30 feet on a 10-foot rod than it is on an 8-foot rod. And for me, it's all about effort. You're on a boat all day. Depending on how it is, you might make 300 casts, give or take, and you might make 100 casts. But you still got to make that same cast the same way all the time, to be proficient. You might have to alter it because somebody's rod's in the way or something like that, but whatever. But still, it's what you're comfortable with, So you got to figure out what it is. I got a buddy of mine, Craig Namora, who I've known for quite a while. Fishes an 8-foot rod. He does just as well as anybody.
Right.
But that's what he's comfortable with.
Yeah.
I said, why don't you get something longer? So I don't like it.
Yeah.
And so be it. I don't like using a 9 or an 8.5-foot rod. I like a 10-foot rod.
Yeah, my buddy Bobby Catano, for years, I've worked with him, and surface iron, he fishes a 6480 CalStar. That's his go-to setup, and
gets the job done.
It gets the job done.
Yeah.
And so I was like, all right, cool, it works. And so now you got the 9 to 10s. I'm a 9 to 10-foot guy, but what feels good and feel confident in what you're casting.
I can tell you this though, your buddy hooking one on an 8-foot rod is definitely much happier at the end of a battle with a 30 or 40-pound yellow.
No doubt.
Than Danny Wade is with his 10-foot rod.
Yeah.
It is.
Or is that the one you handed off?
Yeah, I'm going to hook it hand.
It's to each their own,
Totally.
and it's a learning curve, and again, somebody might like a 100J, somebody might like a 540, somebody might like a whatever, and so on and so on,
The other variation of all this too is what we're talking about is primarily sport boat fishing.
Yep.
And you're on an anchored vessel trying to get the distance, and you're battling with 30 plus other people, not battling, but you're trying to get that extra 20 or 30 feet over your compadres on the boat. But when you're on your own boat, a private boat,
you can do whatever you want.
You can do it with a shorter rod.
Yeah.
You can get that. The distance might only be 3 boat lengths where you're hooking a fish. It's not that bomber of a cast,
The thing about a sport boat, and anything I talk about is always based on sport.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's why I bring that up, though. I mean,
but what inherently will make you better at jig fishing is to be on a sport boat, because you got a guy like me or any other one who's got an understanding of this stuff, and you're sitting there making casts. Maybe you caught one, or maybe you've had a bite or something, and I'm sitting there and got 7. Why is that? I'm doing something different.
I can tell you, my youth was on the Fisherman 3 with Danny Wade. I was 13, 14, 15 years old, growing up with Danny Wade as my mentor.
That's cool.
You know what I mean? That's
Caterpillar Yellow Candy Bar.
Honest to God. I mean, that was my passion in who I am today. Sitting across.
That's
from
right.
That's where you learn it, on a sport boat. That's where I learned it, was on a sport boat.
And Tim Green, man,
and
he was
the same thing.
Yeah.
But you inherently, man, I want to catch fish like that.
Sure.
Ask Matt Bralla. I want to catch fish like that. I want to catch fish like that. So you start paying attention. When you're on your own boat and it's you and your buddy, and you're, especially when you're new to it, you see a yellowtail blow up. Maybe you hook one, maybe you don't. Oh, well. But if you had 4 other buddies on the boat and they all got one and you didn't, you start paying attention.
You learn.
Totally.
And that's why I say you learn your craft on a sport boat. If you go buy your own boat after that, so be it, knock yourself out. But you will learn your craft on a sport boat because we're all jealous of somebody catching more fish.
I was having a conversation with a customer the other day. We were talking about long ranging because, we do couple sponsor trips on the Intrepid and stuff. And he goes, how do I become a good long range fisherman? I'm like, you know what it is? If you're a good half day and a good 3/4 day fisherman, you're going to be an expert long range fisherman. And it just didn't click. And I'm like, no, it's what it's because it's not that you're battling with 30 guys, but you're seeing the other guy and you want to be that guy, or like, what is he doing that I'm not? And you quickly learn. And you got that short period of time, 8 days, 10 days, you got days out in the water to fish, but half day
and conversation too.
And conversation as well. Absolutely.
And a half day, 3/4 day regular that goes, once a week or every other week all year long, has gone to the bait tank 10,000 times and he's looked at 10,000 sardines, and pinning a bait on without thinking about it is just natural.
Like a point he made. Remember Ralph Mickelson?
Sure.
Long range dude, this and that. Put him on a half day boat. He'd be lost because it's not 50 pound and a 5/0 hook, or 130 pound and a 7/0 hook.
A lot more finesse.
You just took the words out of my mouth. I was just going to say finesse fishing on half and 3/4 day boats.
I was so fortunate. I mean, it's bringing back so many stories, Danny, having you across. But I would work on the bait receiver as a little kid, and I'd hop on the half day boat as it came out for bait in the afternoon. I'd spend my whole morning dishing out bait, and then hop on and fish with Danny in the afternoon.
That's a good way to go, man.
I know. Bringing back memories.
That's a good run. How about we jump back into the phones, Cory?
Let's do it. Enough of me. And how about Bruce?
Great.
Bruce from Lemon Grove.
Hey, Bruce.
Hey, good morning, guys, man. What a good show. Last year, I picked up half a dozen DW1s, took them down to Cedros, and this is more of a testimonial. I used every one of them, and they all caught fish.
Awesome.
So it's a very consistent jig.
Nice to hear. You love them, no doubt about it. Appreciate it very much, Bruce. How about we jump back to the phones, Cory?
Let's do it. How about Hills? Hills calling from Ventura. Good morning, Hills.
Hey, good morning, guys. Wow, what a great show. My question for Jerry and Danny is, I heard on, and I don't know if it was Cory that said it, but somebody said sometimes, you can cast even a surface iron out there, and you may want to let it sink for 15 or 20 feet before you start winding it. Is that a thing?
True. Again, this will take you back to the turn bird. You see that turn bird 100 feet or 50 feet above the water. You estimate it 50 feet above the water. That fish is approximately 20 feet or 25, 30 feet below the surface of the water. And if that bird's not coming down and it's just staying there, let your surface iron sink for, 20, 30 seconds.
Yep.
And you cover a little more water and you get it down to where they're staying, and so you put it in their front yard and hopefully you get a bite. But it works well. Yeah.
Along the same lines, I've seen this happen so many times where people will get a backlash. They'll cast out, gets the backlash, and then they're picking it out, which is about maybe 20, 30 seconds. And then they start whining, boom, they get hooked up. Well, they don't realize that the thing just dropped, 20, 30 feet. Meanwhile, they're picking off a backlash and they think, oh, it's just luck. But no, sometimes that fish just happens. They put it right in the sweet spot.
I'm gonna let out a little secret here about areas of South Island and then the Lee, Tuna Rock, the Ribbon.
I'm taking notes.
The smooch, if you can get to it, depending on the pins, even north end of South. Inherently, when it's fishing slow, let the thing sink to the bottom.
It's that 45-degree angle line.
Yep, and just retrieve it in the same idea as you would a surface iron. See if it doesn't pay off.
There you
go. How about that?
I thought about that because I stumbled across that years ago with a backlash.
Yep, there you go. See, so
there's something to it.
Yeah.
This is like deep thoughts with Danny Wade.
Yeah.
Right? I like it. Hey, any thought from Danny's deep, man.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
This is another great text. Says, good morning, guys. What's the general rule on casting surface iron in regards to how much line I let off from the tip? Is it half a rod length, the whole length? My jig sticks are between 8.5 and 9 feet. I love this show. Thank you both for sharing so much knowledge. Tom and Palmdale.
I would go with not so much the length of the rod, but your very stripper guide, if you will, the guy closest to the reel. Put your jig between there and the next guide up in that ballpark, and you'll be okay. You learn to use this fulcrum.
Yep.
And so it's you got to make your rod bend a little bit.
Key.
Yep.
And that's why I prefer a glass rod, because they bend, and it's effortless when you get it figured out.
Yep.
It's absolutely. I see guys bent over the rail, foot in the air, whatever it is they're doing. I stand there flat-footed.
Yep.
And ask Ben Seacrest. He was on a Malahaney with me, and he calls me the next day. I said, how the hell do you do that?
I think also, like Ben, look at what the rod is doing.
Yeah, exactly.
I think we're
That's the casting tool.
Yeah, we're so focused on let me see how far I can throw the jig out in the water. Like I get it. Like we all want to be great casters, but look at the equipment. Look at where that bend is, where that sweet spot, the fulcrum, and get that consistent bend in, and then let that rod do the work as well.
Being able to quote unquote throw harder to the guy next to you does nothing for the bend of the rod, and it can absolutely be the opposite. Like if you don't allow the rod to load, then it's not going to then recoil and put all that energy back into your cast.
The rod's got to bend.
Yeah.
If you want to get any distance, it's got to bend.
You watch a lot of. Oh, go ahead, please.
That's just where the glass rod comes into play. Yeah.
You watch a lot of guys, like Danny and I'm sure Jerry, the same, that have even a moderately parabolic rod. They cast a lot slower than most people that are learning that craft, because when you're casting slower, you're just allowing all the energy to load up into the rod and then unload into the lure. And if you try to whip it too fast, you get that line
Snap
drive fast off the tip.
That's the difference between graphite and carbon fiber and so on. Is they have very little memory, where fiberglass has memory. That's why it
loads up.
That's why the jig stays behind you that extra 3/4 of a second.
Right.
You know, almost a visual of that is like the 12-foot surf casting rod.
Yeah. Look at the world championship casters. These guys using conventional reels,
12, 14-foot rods,
and they use a graphite section for the bottom, so it doesn't. But the casting part's all glass.
I didn't know that.
And those guys are casting 600
Yeah.
feet.
Unreal stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and they all have to stay within the same parameters. So it's not like this guy uses this special thing over here.
Right.
They all got to stay within the same parameters. And fiberglass works. And it's forgiving when you hook a fish as well. So
I like it. I like what Jerry said too about picking out a rod. I can't imagine. We get lucky enough at the store. Like we probably have 30 or 40 surface iron rods in there, and that it's because the same way like Jerry said, this one's glass, this one's composite, this is a little bit of both, this has E-glass, this has S-glass, and they're all a little bit different, and they all work for different people.
I used Tarnells for years, and I don't really anymore because the damn things are so heavy.
Heavy in that bend. The bend is all the way to that stripper guide, like you're talking about.
The butt cap bends on a Tarnell.
But the cast is fabulous.
Unbelievable.
You'll cast farther than the guy standing next to you.
Again, what I use now is this fishing syndicate. It's basically a J100, but the butt end's been scaled down a little bit, so it's easier to put a reel on and so on. And it works very, very well. That's what I use for your number 7 or a number 4 or Salas 7X or a 45 or whatever it may be. I'm using a CalStar J100, which is a lighter rod for fishing, the small. You're getting into the DW1, A1s, and so on, and so on, and so on, and so on. Whatever, 7X Juniors and all that stuff. And it's just same basic rod.
Yeah.
Structured a little tiny different. One's a little lighter tipped, one's a little heavier.
Yeah, and you look at the two, not worldly different apart, just a little bit of componentry different. I like it. Well, hey, let's try to sneak in another, Cory.
Let's do it. How about Charlie? Charlie calling from La Mirada.
Hey, Charlie.
Yeah, hi, good morning, Pete, Rick, and guests. Great show this morning. My question lies in what is best practice in fishing the iron in the kelp force, number one, and number two is a treble hook or a single hook more advisable for that application?
Good question.
Yeah.
Right.
So you talk kelp. I think it's going to be specific to what kelp you're working. So again, La Jolla, if you're in that kelp area, we're looking the JRI 7, but hands down for me, it's a short shank treble hook on a surface iron if you're fishing that surface iron.
You got to learn to cast in the channel.
Yeah, you got to find the lanes.
Or if there's a breeze, you see a stringer of kelp.
Oh boy.
And the breeze is coming out of slightly northwest, and that kelp is pushed down to the southeast.
I'm reading it already, Dan.
You got it. I do dumb things, but I don't care. I'll cast right over the end of that stringer of kelp because the breeze blows your line down around the end of it, and you come back underneath it. But you got to learn how to do that, But channels, fish the channels. Don't try and fish right over the top of the kelp unless it's down 3 or 4 feet.
There it is. Hey, when we come back, we got more Let's Talk Hookup coming your way, including finding out who's winning that hand-picked bag of JRIs, Cory.
I know it. We're going to be right back on the Sports Grid Radio Network and at Let's Talk Hookup app.
Let's talk candidly about long-range fishing. This is Captain Frank DePresti of the Royal Polaris and the Shogun. Nowhere on Earth will you find a fleet of long-range boats like we have in San Diego. We are fortunate to have several top-notch operations to take you to the most productive fishing grounds in the world. We all offer good food, comfortable staterooms, huge bait capacity, and top-of-the-line fish-finding electronics. So why would you choose the Royal Polaris or the Shogun for your next long-range trip? What sets us apart from the rest? It's pretty simple. The boats, the crew, and the service. From the moment you arrive at Fisherman's Landing, the service begins. We help you load your gear and do everything possible to get beginners or seasoned veterans ready to catch fish. When it's time to fish, the Royal Polaris and the Shogun have the edge there too, delivering the 2 best fishing platforms in the fleet. But don't take my word for it. Come fishing with us. If you want the best, it's Royal Polaris and the Shogun. For more information, call 619-226-8030 or on the web at royalpolarissportfishing.com or shogunsportfishing.com.
Gamakatsu is not just all about hooks. There's so much more, including the new Gamakatsu fillet knives. Once you try one, you'll always want more. The new tools are also very special, including the Gamakatsu braid scissors made with ceramic blades so they'll never rust. Check out the new lineup of shirts and hats, and of course, Gamakatsu fishing pliers and boxes are amazing. Gamakatsu, much more than just the best hooks. Get them at your local tackle shop or at gamakatsu.com.
When it comes to fishing rods for saltwater, there's just one name you need to know, CalStar. Take, for example, the Graphiter series. It's a true graphite and fiberglass composite rod, the finest it's ever been built. And for anglers seeking traditional performance, durability, and quality at an affordable
give us our
price,
60-second
the
little
CalStar
warning
West
there?
Coast series of rods and blanks are the ones for you. Their master craftsmen bring decades of rod building experience to every rod they make. So if you want your fishing rods to be truly state-of-the-art, I always recommend CalStar at fine tackle stores everywhere.
Hey, San Diego, it's the Ford Black Friday sales event. 4 days of the biggest savings on an incredible selection. From F-150, Explorer, Bronco Sport, or the all-electric Mustang Mach-E. Visit your San Diego County Ford dealers now through December 2nd and get great offers across the lineup of Ford trucks and SUVs. It's the Ford Black Friday sales event, and now is the best time to get behind the wheel of your brand new Ford and drive it home today. But hurry, these offers absolutely end December 2nd. Only at your San Diego County Ford dealers. They'll be glad to hook you up.
All right, welcome back to Let's Talk Hookup, and we're going to go ahead and flip the
prize coin. Want to do us the
honor?
honors? That's going to determine whether we have a caller or a texter today.
Let it hit the deck.
Today we have a texter. Congratulations, Tom in Palmdale.
All right.
Boy, you are
Stoked.
hooked up. Look at that pile of jigs.
I'm going to put online. You got a pack of stinger jigs.
That's awesome, Jerry.
What color is that?
Oh, this is
a dark mint.
Yeah, this is like our. This might be our Detroit diesel here. So you get stinger jigs there. Got our new depth charger, JRI.
Look at that
tuna
hook.
jig. I know. Custom.
No BS.
Yeah, we don't mess around.
Look at
And
that.
a couple micro stinger keychains.
That's
It's
so
been
rad.
nice spending time with you, Jerry.
You guys did a fantastic. This was a great show, and just again, can't begin to thank you enough for everything. And Danny, you're going to keep us in touch when when the word comes out about the
if
ladies'
there's
instructional trip.
Anybody interested in trying to do this ladies thing, bring your husband, boyfriend, whatever. But CCA Instagram, you can leave a message on there, or you can go to Tony's Instagram.
You'll keep me in the loop, and we'll spread the word on Let's
it's
Talk Hookup too.
Tony Bang.
You got it.
And leave her a message. She said, "Yeah, to come directly to me." But it's going to happen. I just can't say exactly.
I dig it.
Probably Margin.
Jerry, awesome job. Thank you so much. Jigs available everywhere, every tackle store. They're our favorite, man.
Awesome.
Great.
JRI Custom Lures on Instagram. Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week. Let's Talk Hookup. We're tomorrow morning, 7 to 9 a.m. right here on the Let's Talk Hookup app on the Sports Grid Radio Network.
Hey, great stuff, guys.
Sorry, Bo. Read a little bit over there. Appreciate it, buddy.
Oh, it's all good.
Thanks, homie.
No worries on that.
Thanks.